There's something almost surreal about watching an institution panic in slow motion, not collapse overnight, not explode in scandal, but slowly unravel, thread by thread, because it refuses to do the one thing that could save it: tell the truth, take responsibility, read the room. Right now, the monarchy isn't facing criticism because of climate campaigns or charity work or modern ideas. It isn't under pressure because younger generations want progress. It isn't struggling because the world has changed. It's struggling because when faced with a moment that demanded moral clarity, it chose silence. And that silence has a name: Andrew. This is not just a public relations problem. It's not just another uncomfortable headline. This is an existential crisis for an institution that claims to represent duty, honor, and service. Because what happens when the very people preaching responsibility appear unwilling to hold their own accountable? People stop believing. They stop respecting. They stop caring. And indifference is far more dangerous than anger. What makes this moment so striking is the contrast. On one side, you have a palace digging trenches, closing ranks, releasing carefully worded statements, hoping the storm passes if everyone simply says less. On the other side, you have two people who refuse to keep pretending. Harry and Meghan didn't set out to fight the system. They didn't launch a rebellion. They didn't demand a throne or titles or special treatment. What they refused to do was participate in a culture of quiet complicity. And that's what makes this moment so uncomfortable for the establishment. Because when you choose honesty, you accidentally expose everyone who's hiding. Think about it. At a time when the monarchy desperately needs credibility, what does the public see? Lawyers, secrecy, closed doors, carefully managed optics. They see protection for insiders and consequences for anyone who steps outside the script. And the message becomes painfully clear. If you protect the institution protects you. If you challenge it, you're on your own. That's not leadership. That's self-preservation. And people are tired of it. This is why so many viewers, even people who aren't die-hard supporters of Harry and Meghan, find themselves nodding along when their names come up. Because whether you agree with every decision they've made or not, one thing is obvious. They didn't hide. They didn't pretend nothing was wrong. They didn't smile through something that didn't feel right. They walked away from a machine that seemed more concerned with appearances than accountability. And in today's world, that feels rare. It feels human. It feels real. Meanwhile, the palace continues to behave like it's still living in another century, where mystique could replace transparency, and the public would simply accept whatever narrative was handed down. But this isn't the 1950s. This is the age of receipts. People don't just read headlines anymore. They analyze, they compare, they ask questions. And the biggest question hanging in the air right now is brutally simple. Why protect the people who damage the monarchy, while pushing away the ones who connect with the public? Because let's be honest, Harry and Meghan aren't the threat. They didn't cause this crisis. They didn't create the controversy. They didn't drag the monarchy's reputation into the mud. If anything, they represent the very thing the institution desperately needs, but seems terrified to embrace: openness, compassion, accountability, modern values, the kind of values younger generations actually respond to. Instead, the palace clings to the old playbook: never explain, never admit, never change. And that strategy might have worked once, but now it just looks stubborn. Worse, it looks guilty. There's something deeply frustrating about watching self-described monarchists sound the alarm, while the institution itself refuses to listen. Even the loyal voices are saying it out loud. Be transparent. Stop shielding people. Show integrity. Yet nothing changes. It's like watching someone try to save a house while the owners refuse to turn off the fire. And that's where Harry and Meghan's decision feels less like rebellion and more like self-respect. Because staying silent would have meant participating, smiling for cameras while pretending everything was fine, defending a system that clearly wasn't protecting its own moral standards. For some people, that's duty. For others, that's compromise. And they chose not to compromise. That choice resonates more than the palace realizes, because people don't expect perfection anymore. They expect honesty. They can forgive mistakes. They cannot forgive hypocrisy. When an institution claims to stand for honor but appears selective about accountability, the disconnect becomes impossible to ignore. And that's exactly what we're seeing now. Public trust isn't shattered in one dramatic moment. It erodes quietly. Every unanswered question, every vague statement, every no comment, every time the wrong person seems protected. Bit by bit, the foundation cracks. And what's wild is that Harry and Meghan, simply by living openly and speaking candidly, highlight those cracks without even trying. They don't have to attack the monarchy. They don't have to expose anything. The contrast speaks for itself. Two people choosing authenticity. An institution choosing secrecy. Guess which one feels relatable? Guess which one feels outdated? This isn't about sides anymore. It's about credibility. If the monarchy wants to survive another generation, it can't keep acting like transparency is the enemy. Because the real enemy is distrust. And right now, distrust is growing faster than any PR team can control. People aren't asking for perfection. They're asking for fairness, for consistency, for the same standards applied to everyone. And when that doesn't happen, support starts slipping through their fingers. Not dramatically, quietly. The worst kind of loss. The kind where one day people just stop defending you. That's the danger. Not protests, not headlines. A shrug. Because once the public stops caring, the magic is gone. And without that emotional connection, a monarchy is just ceremony, just costumes, just tradition without meaning. Harry and Meghan understood something the palace still hasn't grasped. You can't demand respect. You earn it. You earn it by doing the uncomfortable thing, by choosing truth over convenience, by standing up even when it costs you. And that's exactly what they did. They chose peace over pretense, clarity over confusion, integrity over image, and whether people admit it or not, that takes courage. So while the institution scrambles to protect itself from outside criticism, it keeps ignoring the real issue, staring back at it in the mirror. Because the crisis isn't modernity, it isn't progress, it isn't outspoken family members, it's the refusal to evolve. And until that changes, no amount of tradition will save it. In the end, this moment won't be remembered as the time two people walked away. It will be remembered as the moment the palace had a chance to prove its values and hesitated. A moment when accountability could have rebuilt trust, but silence chose comfort instead. And in that silence, Harry and Meghan's choice makes perfect sense. Not reckless, not dramatic, just necessary. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't staying inside the system, it's stepping outside it and refusing to pretend anymore. And maybe, just maybe, that's what real service looks like now.